Hey everybody, welcome to the 1947 Operators Podcast. In order to increase the rate of technology innovation in India, we need to increase the number of operator angels in India. Hence, we are launching the 1947 Operators. 1947 Operators is a podcast that unpacks the investing journey of the best operator angels in India. We will be covering areas like what drove them into angel investing, what's their investing process like, how do they source deals, pick deals, and win deals, how do they evaluate founders and the market size, what value do they bring to the cap table. We're hoping the 1947 Operators podcast will help more operators start their angel investing journey. As a result, we will see an increase in the number of operator angels in the startup ecosystem. We had Umang Kumar on the pod today. Umang is the co-founder and president of CarDekho. CarDekho is India's biggest digital automotive solutions provider that supports the car buyers at all stages of their personal mobility journey. CarDekho is about to go public soon. In this pod, we cover topics like what drove him into angel investing, what's his investing process like, how does he evaluate founders and market, his big wins and misses, his advice to operators that are looking to start angel investing soon, and his advice to the first time founders how to construct their cap table when fundraising, and much more. All
Let's start.
right. I am excited to have Umang Kumar on the 1947 Operator Angels podcast. Umang, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Shiva, for having me here. I'm excited, equally excited to be here.
We'll dive right into it, Umang. What drove you into angel investing and what was your first angel investment?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can call my first angel investment a real angel investment. It's actually a company called 91 Mobile, still very close to the founders. But uh, my plan was always to actually join them as a third co-founder. And prior to joining them, I was on my lock-in period at Naspers, right? Having sold my company Gadi.com to Naspers. So towards the end of that period is when my plan was essentially to join them. And pre-joining, I sort of invested the capital into that company. Um, Long story, I didn't end up joining them. I was able to sell Gadi.com a second time over to CarDekho, and I ended up staying and building out CarDekho. But technically, that would now be my first angel investment.
Got it. And I guess it's a big one there. And it's also a function of, I guess you didn't plan of doing it. As you said, you were, planning. In fact, you were planning to join them. Umang, what's your investing process like? You've done multiple investments now, right? How do you evaluate founders? How do you size up the market?
So Shiva, this for me has sort of evolved with time because I think early on I didn't have that much capital, and a lot of the angel investing journey early on has been more about mentorship and more about working very closely with founders. So I would put my own money. It's always good to have skin in the game, uh, but maybe do two investments a year, but work very closely with the founders, actively help them in preparing their pitch deck, helping them put together the team, helping them think through how to run the business, helping them network, etc., etc. And what I would say is a lot of my journey between 2014 uh, and 2019 would be this kind of angel investing would be more prevalent. Uh, Post 2019 is when I started to what you would basically say is a more regular kind of angel investing. Again, that breaks into two buckets. There are lots of investment opportunities you get where you tend to co-invest with a VC. Those tend to be sort of simpler to decide. A lot of the pre-vetting has been done by the investor, and the founders basically bringing you on for the network that you bring or other value that you bring on. And the second is the classical angel investing, right? Where very often what someone like I do is I end up putting together a round because typically, if I'm writing a check, I'll have a bunch of my friends whom I closely invest with also co-invest. Now, in terms of how does one sort of decide which team to put money into, etc., a lot of it, the classical sort of team traction, market size slash business model, right? For the specific business model, what's the market size? That's the classical evaluation framework one uses. But for me, it's heavily weighted on team. Uh, at least early on angel investing, I've seen enough cases where ideas have changed, the business model has changed as the founders execute. So very often, I'm largely going on team and market size. That this is a specific sort of market that they are trying to disrupt. As they get into it, they will figure and learn more about it. But is the team reasonably high quality to be able to execute? Uh, and I personally have a little bit more bias for teams who have prior execution track record, right? Someone who sort of either done that in a largish startup or has had prior sort of startup experience. I think that helps immensely.
Got it. And typically, let's say if you don't know the founder, usually you'll back somebody you work with, or you've known that person for a while. But let's say someone comes to you, who you don't know yet, but typically you'll get, let's say, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, at max 2 hours. Are there any questions you ask them where kind of like it gives you a sense, is that the founder that you want to back?
Yeah, I don't take a decision within 160-minute call that whether I want to invest or not, unless it's one of those situations where I'm co-investing with a VC,
Yeah.
where then I'm sort of going with the underlying VC's judgment that they've done a lot of the heavy lifting and due process to vet the founders, etc. And then it's a different kind of methodology. Uh, I would end up typically spending maybe 3 to 4 hours with the founder before I would investing. Sometimes in a one-on-one scenario, but more often than not in a group setting where there would be two or three of us asking the founder questions, etc. Uh, a lot of my focus very often goes on what the founder has done in the past. What have they really done? What kind of businesses have they executed? Do they have the relevant expertise for that industry? If not, do they have relevant functional expertise for the problem that they're looking to solve, or just have they shown past leadership experience in terms of managing complexity, managing teams? Little bit of a extra bias for me is have they had a past 0 to 1, 1 to 10 journey? A lot of people see scale and they come in at a very different place. The journey of taking a company from 10 to 100 is quite different from the 0 to 1, 1 to 10 journey. And sometimes people who've seen only the 10 to 100 journey are a little unaccustomed or not comfortable with the 0 to 10 journey. The second big thing that I focus on is time. A lot of founders I feel don't give themselves the time to succeed. That they have especially slightly older founders who've got financial responsibilities at home, etc. Very often they don't plan their entrepreneurial journey long enough in terms of capital, etc., and then they give up reasonably early into the journey. So that is the other sort of piece I focus a lot on. That um, when you're looking at founders who are maybe 35 plus, etc., have they given themselves the requisite cushion to be able to work through all the challenges, obstacles they'll face before they get there? Uh, Thirdly, I have a little bit of a bias towards startups where the economics make sense to me from day one.
Yeah.
Where I feel that if you're not able to raise capital at some point in time, you should be able to hustle and manage through your own internal accruals, because your basic business model should sort of make money. So that's been a little bit of a bias that I've always had. And Yeah, I think those are broadly the three odd factors that I would look.
Got it. And what sectors do you invest in, and what kind of check sizes do you typically write? And are there any industries you're currently very excited about?
I don't do auto. So anything as far as auto is concerned, I try to keep it within the purview of CarDekho. But outside of auto, again, if I look at the way I invest, there are sort of, again, three buckets, right? One is this whole bucket where I am actively involved and I mentor and I spend time, right? So out there, my bias is towards industries where I understand more. Fintech would be a great one. Media, online media would be a great one. Uh, E-commerce, funnily enough, where I spent a decent amount of time looking at e-commerce, BDC, etc. I think those are sectors then uh, that I would look at from a mentorship plus capital kind of perspective. And typically in those situations, I would end up investing between me and whoever I sort of co-invest with, probably invest as much as a crore into a startup. Uh, the second, but that is far, few and far between. That would be more like two a year. It's not going to be that often. The second bucket is where your classical, someone's putting a round together. You listen to the founder's pitch. You spend one or two conversations, three conversations with the founder, and then you sort of take a call. This makes sense. And again, out there are two pools of capital. One is what I personally sort of invest. Typically, over there, I would not syndicate or get others to come on board with me. The other is I've set up a angel fund called ISB Atrium Angel. So
Mhm.
it is basically a fund for ISB alumni investing into founders who are ISB alumni. Now, typically over there, we end up doing a 40 lakh check. A typical check size is about 40 odd lakh. Uh, but a lot of the deals that we get over there very often are because, as an IC or as an LP pool, we bring a lot more value. All alums bringing a lot more value to the startup. And there is a classical process. We'll probably meet the founder twice, spend maybe 2 to 3 hours. And within that 2 to 3 hours, collectively as an IC, three of us will sort of take a call as to do we want to or not invest into a startup.
Got it. And Umang, can we, talk about few of your big wins? Maybe we can talk about the stories behind them. And we would love to also talk about few of the misses, meaning you had a chance to invest in them for whatever reason you ended up not investing and they turned out to be doing good. And what were the learnings from them?
Some wins have exited, some wins have not exited. Um, but for me, probably the biggest win would be College Dunia, which is one of the very early pure mentorship kind of investments have done. I've really seen that founder. He's never raised VC capital. I've really seen that founder evolve over the year, and he's been building his company out for more than 10 years now. I'm damn excited to see what he'll build in another 10 years because he's gotten himself to a very comfortable situation. But that would be one of like the outstanding investments for me. The second one that I've exited successfully is one called ANS Commerce.
Yeah.
And there I was very closely involved with the initial team. ANS stands for Amit Nakul Sushant. So, and there's a long story between, how the team sort of came together. Uh,
Yeah.
and Amit was actually leaving, or we were shutting down a division of CarDekho. Amit was leading that division. I was actually asked to help outplace him, and that's when really got talking with him. Then I figured he'd be a great fit with Sushant. Got the two of them together, and that's how they started the company. And later helped them get a CEO also and founder on top, and then they successfully sold themselves to Flipkart. But that's a company. At least for 2 years, I was reasonably closely involved with their journey and the entire sort of incubation they went through, and had a fairly successful exit also uh, over there. Another one very closely involved with is Connected Edge. Again, a classical mentors plus
Yeah.
investment kind of situation. Help them put together their first round that they did. About half of that round came through folks that I knew, and worked very closely with them in terms of the deck for the next round also that they did. They went on to raise money from Kalari Capital, etc. I
Mhm.
was able to successfully exit to an extent, you know, to one of the smaller funds that was putting in capital over there. But
Mhm.
those are sort of examples of investments that where I've made. There are others. Zingbus would be one of them where I've again partially exited. Maybe I should not have exited partially also, that I will continue to do very well as a startup. Lots of others that have had markups and done more, but I think these four would stand out in terms of some of the wins that I've had. We can
Yeah.
now talk about some of the big sort of misses as far as I'm concerned. I think one that came to me early on during COVID was Bright Champs. Uh, Back then, I thought there were too many people doing White Hat Junior like clones.
Yeah.
Here is another one, very high quality team, right? And spoke to Ravi that time, the founder. Hindsight should have sort of put money in. I think EdTech then really took off, and they've been hugely successful. And it doesn't matter today. There's a little bit of a EdTech doldrum, irrespective. My sense is that they will do very well. Given the stage at which I would have come in, I would still end up making a ton of money out there. Uh, there are others. I think uh, through the ISB pool also there've been a couple of startups where I think we could have invested. Where we've missed out. We were unsure about the thesis, but off the cuff, these are sort of two that come to mind.
Yeah.
Again, I've not done. I'm trying to think of a few more. I've been offered up, but I never even seriously evaluated. I was, invited into rounds of JAR of a bunch of other sort of startups. It's just that at that point of time, maybe I was not keen in looking at some of those opportunities, etc. So I didn't end up investing. But I can't think of too many other misses other than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. If you could think of one biggest learning out of the misses, what would that be? One, as you said, like sometimes doesn't matter if the industry is crowded, if the team is great, they end up doing good.
I don't really regret any of the misses. I don't think I've had a learning from the misses. I would have had a learning from where I've invested,
Yeah.
where I think my bias towards super high quality teams has gone up significantly now. And indexing and don't sort of back a team you are unsure about.
Mhm.
Focus on backing a team that is absolutely tier one.
Umang, seems like your investing has been mentorship driven. You're a firm believer of investing in your network and building that network. And secondly, of course, the byproduct has been the financial gains you've been getting through the exit. What are other reasons that really is driving you to back other founders and operators?
So I think the whole journey that I've gone through at CarDekho, right, where I built out multiple different lines of business, ended up working with a ton of people. Right? As a lot of these folks move on, they come to you, they ask for mentorship, they ask for advice. For them, it's important from a signaling perspective if someone they worked with in the past is sort of investing into their company. So very often, I think some of what happened earlier was there. I really believed in some of these people having worked very closely with them. And that's how my investment journey initially started. And that was why it was a little bit more, like I said, up till 2019, I would say it was a lot more of this mentorship plus capital kind of this thing. Because for me, it's also sort of signaling to say, hey, I do believe in you and I'm putting in money also, besides, of course, just in giving advice or helping you guys, helping connect you, helping you raise capital, so on. I think, but that model is intrinsically not very scalable, right? You can only mentor a couple of startups at any given time. You can't really do more than that.
Mhm.
Which is why inevitably, as you start to look to invest more and more capital came, like the asset class. I believe that you can get returns, and I think last year, I've started to get a lot more return from this whole asset class, and it's a function of a marriage of capital availability and opportunity. There's a lot of deal flow also. Someone like me inevitably gets access to,
Yeah.
right? That you do a few deals, they do well, then lots of startup founders keep sort of referring to you, etc. Uh, I think the journey into setting up Atrium Angels and also raising capital for it and starting to invest over there, that sort of exposed me to other IC members who've done a lot more angel investing than I have,
Mhm.
and learned a little bit from their journey, their thought process, their evaluation, etc. So I think it's a combination. A few years ago, uh, the access to opportunity, because there's a lot of deal flow that ends up coming,
Mhm.
and I think gradually sort of learning more in terms of how do I evaluate better and how do I choose to invest in A startup versus B startup. I think it's a combination of these three that has come together that in the last couple of years have accelerated my angel investing journey a little bit.
Got it. And I think Umang, this transition us into the next phase, which is, I think last year about founders and operators got exit via ESOPs. I think it was around $450 million. It's really a function of having a bunch of high growth companies in the ecosystem. So now they have some liquidity. Let's say if they want to get started with angel investing, what framework should they have in mind?
So, someone new looking to get into sort of angel investing, uh, please understand it's a very illiquid asset class. So, first counsel would be, don't invest more than maybe 10% of your personal liquid wealth into this asset. No
Yeah.
matter how tempted you are, it takes a lot of time for you to get liquid. I think, especially sort of younger founders, they overinvest into this
Yeah.
asset class. So first counsel would be, hey, be disciplined about it. Uh, Put aside about 10% of your net worth, and that's a great amount to invest into. The second piece within that, then I would say, is follow a portfolio. That don't go put it all into one startup or two startup. Be disciplined. Split that capital that you have allocated towards that. Allocate it first of all over the course of 2 to 3 years. Then be clear. Unless you're clear, you're going to add on to that pool every year. Then allocate in a certain way, but don't invest it all in one shot. So invest whatever capital you've done into at least 10 to 15 on start. So divide whatever is the total capital pool you want. You will get your average check size that you're supposed to do. After which, uh, the next problem to solve. So once you're clear about how much capital I'm putting, how large a check I'm putting, etc., the whole problem flips over to access to deal.
Yeah.
And especially early on, what ends up happening is, right, until you don't see a lot of deals, uh, the way you judge quality is a little different from once you see a lot of deals or once you see a lot of founders and you start to understand what the relative benchmarking truly is, right? Because initially you work with someone, you'll think it's great and absolutely you should back them, etc. But over a period of time, you realize that vis-a-vis the broader market, what's the quality of founders out there? What's the quality of benchmark out there, etc. So before you sort of try and get that initial sort of experience where, along with someone who you trust, who's done angel investing earlier, co-invest, understand how they evaluate some deals, etc. And tend to co-invest with them before you start your own journey where you put in the first check and then get others to co-invest with you. A lot of this works on track record. As you invest, you give people return on capital. uh, you know, uh, People automatically come to you saying, I want to invest more with you, etc. The second big problem to solve for is access to deal. You'll always, if you're choosing to put money into two startups out of three that come to you, or you choose to put money into two out of 20 that come to you, obviously you'll logically do better if you have access to that kind of deal flow. So uh, try and solve for that structurally. How do I solve for access to deal flow, and especially proprietary deal flow? Other founders you have within your network or other operators you have within your network who also have invested earlier, try and sort of start to co-invest with them as much as possible, because access to deal flow is also hugely beneficial.
I think it's a great framework. Don't put more than 10% of your liquid capital into this asset class. Make sure you diversify and then solve for the access to deal flow. And I think it was a very good point where, I think Naval had said it. While you're evaluating your judgment, let's say, if you're investing in every other company that you're seeing, meaning something is wrong there. Back to your point where, if you're investing in one out of 20 that you see, meaning again, like that, you're developing judgment and you're building that access. um, Umang, you know of course, over time you've built a network, you have a brand. For you it'll be a little different whenever you start your next company, if you do. But let's say if there's a first time founder who understands the ecosystem decent, how to go about constructing their cap table for their first round of funding.
Okay. Interesting question, right? And I think a lot varies also on the quality of founder and you know one's level of self confidence about their ability to raise capital, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of founders, and this is the bulk of it, right? They underestimate how hard it is to raise capital early on until they go through the journey and they realize that it's a lot more harder, and 15 other people are doing the same business, and the VCs have probably been exposed to multiple teams within that sector space, etc. And by then realize it's hard to raise capital. So, if you are getting capital, typically I would counsel folks to take it. So, that would be true for the bulk of people who are raising. That said, especially very high quality founding teams, right? Teams that are sort of coming together and who have a reasonably high, let's just say, probability of being able to raise institutional capital, etc. To those folks, typically, what I do recommend is try and put an early round together with angels, especially those who can add value to you either through network or through connects. Um, um, you know, add value to you in other ways. Maybe just to bounce off or think through, how do I solve certain problems. I can't tell you how many founders come to me with legal problems or financial problems or other weird naughty issues to solve, right? And that's classical. Like people don't know how to solve for certain things. In fact, they don't even understand some of the terms that are there in a lot of
Mhm.
legal agreements, etc. So having a bunch of angels, the only issue, though my recommendation though would be try and find angels who also can give the time, who
Yeah.
can give that 1 or 2 hours because there are a lot of people who are investing right now who are doing so many deals where you don't have the time, uh, and even then you'll inevitably pick and choose in terms of who you end up talking to and spending a lot more time mentoring, etc. So put together a cap table with as many angels as you can get. Don't be too picky. I think with the whole new age ALRUV structures, etc., there's no longer the old issue of having 30 shareholders or 80 shareholders, and all that issue is gone. Just use a classical ALRUV or some other AIF construct. Put in, pool in all the angels over there, bring them onto the cap table and operate. Um, the second is that try and if you do have the luxury of being able to raise from multiple institutional investors, if multiple investors get interested in your round, and that is a luxury not many startups have, then always index for the quality of investor who is coming in and look at the investor's track record, because as you go through the journey, a lot of the selling of your company is done by the investor, not just by you,
Yeah.
and they help you immensely in terms of further fundraisers, etc. So out there, I do counsel founders that if you have the luxury of getting multiple investors interested in your company,
Mhm.
index on the quality of institutional investors you're bringing into the company.
No, love it. Make sure to have as many operator angels or value add angels on the cap table. Also, they should have time to help you, not just people who are writing a lot of checks and just don't have any time. And then if you have the opportunity to raise from bunch of institutional investors, go do that. And no, love that one.
And when you think of angels, don't just think of founders. I
Yeah.
think there are a lot of folks who are executing within companies. In fact, folks who've headed marketing, who've headed other functions, and I've met a lot of founders who've raved on about people who help them out immensely in their journey, help them solve problems like reducing CAC, help them solve other problems.
Mhm.
So it's not necessary that don't over bias for the fact if someone's putting in a lot of money or they have a lot of brand. I think I would bias for the fact that can they add value to me,
Yeah.
and do they have the time to add value to me?
Yeah.
I would bias on those two aspects.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a very, very important point. Don't optimize only for the founders, other operators as well who are leading, as you said, marketing or other divisions. And so, Umang, we're gonna transition into our last part, which is driven by my co-pilot Alfonso in the back. And his first question is, Umang, how much of your success do you attribute to luck and why?
Whoa, interesting question. So, uh, luck plays a huge role. Let me be clear about that. So let me put it to you this way. I think you have to put yourself into positions where you can get lucky. All people who work hard and who are reasonably smart will end up making, something like 10 crore or 20 crore in life, right? Luck will play a role in whether you make 100 crore or 1000 crore, etc. But all good people will end up making that. However, in order to get that 100 crore or 1000 crore, there are two elements that make you lucky: willingness to take risk, because there are a lot of very, very smart people out there who are unwilling to take the risk for financial constraints, familial constraints, their own personalities, whatever. There's a whole host of reasons why that happens. So if you're not willing to take a risk, sometimes you don't put yourself in a position to get lucky. And the second is, the hard work and the team that it takes to put yourself into a position that gets lucky. Individual brilliance only carries you to a certain distance. Team brilliance, which is not just you, but a bunch of individuals who you are able to get who want to work with you, takes you much further. So that's how you make yourself lucky. That's how you get lucky. You have to put yourself into positions where you get lucky, and you may fail one or two times, but if you put yourself in enough positions to get lucky, something will click, and then you will see that larger outcome come. What you can't control is the size of the outcome. That is genuine luck. Whether you have a really large outcome or a not so large outcome, that is genuine luck. But putting yourself in a position where you have the ability to have a large outcome, I think is what the hard work or the smartness people have to show.
Thanks for sharing this, Umang. And a founder that you admire, who is that founder? Why? And it has to be somebody that you've not worked with yet.
So before he is a founder, I think one of the people who I have admired is my roommate from ISP. His name is Ashish Mohapatra. He runs now a large little startup called Off Business. But I think back in ISP itself, I could see that there was a combination of drive that is I've seen in very few individuals. I think Amit at CarDekho is one of the few people where I've seen that level of drive. Uh, Ashish just combines that level of drive with a level of smartness and intelligence also that is equally interesting. So he's always been one guy who I have I think admired over the years.
Got it. And Umang, of course, we know you because of a tech entrepreneur who's been building and scaling for the last 2 decades, and also, I would say, a tech enabler through mentorship and through angel investing. What do your friends know you for? Who are you outside of work?
Who am I outside of work? So a lot of my friends would know me for having a lot of fun going out on trips with them. I enjoy traveling immensely. I think that's something that I do. Having two kids, a lot of the weekends. And the last 2 years has been especially great, right? With COVID, etc. I just had so much more time at home. It's been pretty phenomenal. Uh, I think since the last 6 months, since I started to focus a lot on our Southeast Asia business, and travel has restarted, right? I've been spending a little bit less time with them, but I think those are the two core things. They know me as an avid traveler, someone who loves to go see new places, and I think of myself, especially on weekends, as a very family guy. I love to spend time with the kids and do stuff.
And what's your favorite place or city or country to visit, and why?
Um, Eastern Europe, I would say. I think very beautiful part of the world. Of course, little embroiled right now on the Ukraine side at least, but I think Prague, that whole belt, Poland, etc. That whole belt is beautiful. All of Europe, I think. I I love all of Europe, but specifically, I think I'm pointing out Eastern Europe over there.
Love it, Umang.
Perfect.
I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much for making the time to come on the podcast and really walking us through your angel investing journey.
Thanks, Shiva, and best of luck with 1947 Rise.
Thank
See
you.
you.